Welcome to my new video. Here in this video, once again, it's a viewer request video or a video in which I've combined several viewer questions into one video. I've already made many videos about installing photovoltaic modules and of course especially about installing photovoltaic modules on a tiled roof. Or I've received so many comments, suggestions and questions from you on this topic that I'm putting everything together in this video. I hope I can help you further and answer your questions here. So what's the task for today? The task for today is as follows. We have a tiled roof and we want to install photovoltaic modules on it. What do we have to do first? Important. For now, I'm going to leave out the aspect of safety in this video. I'm just going to assume that anyone doing something like this has common sense and will stand on scaffolding or secure themselves properly on the roof and so on. I'm just going to take that for granted. That would go beyond the scope of this video. What do we want to do first, or what do we need to do first? First of all, you should be clear about which photovoltaic modules you're going to use. I've just set up a demo module here. How many photovoltaic modules are you using, and how many rows of these photovoltaic modules are you putting on your roof? Of course, here we have to see how much space we have on the roof. It's best if you roughly measure your roof and just draw it out on a piece of paper, then basically lay out the modules on the paper. For example, you can also cut out the modules to a scale of 1 to 10 or something similar, place them on paper and play around a bit so you can see how you want to lay them out. But that's just a side note. Now we've decided on a certain module size. As I mentioned, this is just a demo module I brought out to show you. And here's the first pitfall. Please buy the modules first or find out which modules you want to use. Because there's a problem here. The modules are usually, as you can see here, framed with aluminum. And this aluminum frame has a height, a construction height. You need to know this before the project, or at least you should know it before the project. How do you determine it? You can simply find it in the technical data sheet, or in this case, we just measure it. And as you can see, we have a module height of 35 millimeters here. Of course, there are also modules with 30 millimeter heights, or exotic ones with 25, 20, or 40 millimeter module heights. Next, we need to find out how many modules we want to install in a row. That's actually quite easy for you to calculate. Just look at what kind of roof area you have. Very important. Modules are not installed at the edge of the roof and not all the way up at the ridge. This is for wind-related reasons. For example, if you install the modules too close to the roof ridge, there may be turbulence here, and especially strong wind forces can occur on or around the modules. Of course, this also applies if the modules are placed too close to the roof tiles. So leave a little space around them so you don't take any risks here. Once you have that, you'll know about how many modules to install per row and how many rows you need. And accordingly, we need our substructure. There are nice sets available that are pre-made for you. The advantage of buying a set is that you really don't have to worry about what you need to buy individually and what you don't. Because that's the biggest mistake or the main point of error in general when installing the modules on the roof. Something always gets forgotten, but if you buy a complete ready-made set like this, everything you need is included. You don't have to worry about the individual connecting hooks or similar things anymore. Everything fits perfectly. I'll just show you the whole thing here with the system from Photovoltaic. Important, all the components and sources used here can also be found below in the video description. We'll just go to mounting kits here and then select the appropriate roof. Here we have the example of tile roof mounting. The main benefit is you can now see pre-configured sets, which are also much more affordable. That means we can simply choose here what we want to install. Most of you will probably set up smaller balcony power plants. That means we're talking about 2 or 4 panels. However, of course, you can also build larger systems with 10 panels and so on. Important, I told you to please measure the panel height. We had a panel here with 35 millimeters. As you can see, 35 to 45 millimeters of panel height can be covered by this system. I really like that about the system because this system allows you to change the modules later on. For example, if newer modules come onto the market, or if you change your mind at short notice and decide to buy different ones. So we have a range of 30 to 45 millimeters that we can clamp in here. Let's just take any set for now. Usually with the new balcony power plants, we need 4 panels. We just click here and now we have a set. What do you need to pay attention to here? We see this set means you can set up 4 modules or 4 panels and connect them in a row. We can already see it illustrated down here. Here we have our holders, our corresponding support bars, I'll just call them that, and it's mounted in a row. If you want to place these 4 modules underneath each other in 2 rows of 2 modules, then you need to buy 2 corresponding sets for 2 modules each. There are different end clamps included, but note we only have 4 here. One module here and another there can represent the ends, so you can't just separate the set like this. If you want to do that, you'll have to buy these clamps separately. Nevertheless, we can see that the set actually includes everything you need. We have our support rail, our mounting rail, we have grounding connectors, which means you can even ground your system here. We have matching extension U-rails that let us extend the main rails. We have our roof hooks in sufficient quantity, our mounting screws, and all other fastening materials, as well as end caps included. As I mentioned, you can now assemble and order your sets. Once they arrive, the next question comes up. Before we mount our rails on the roof, at what distance should we actually install them? Please take a look at the technical datasheet of your photovoltaic module, because the manufacturer specifies certain points where we can mount the modules. There is often a misconception circulating on the internet that you can just mount the modules wherever you want. No, you shouldn't do that. You should follow the manufacturer's instructions. A little tip. If you no longer have any manufacturer information for your modules, just try turning the modules over. And here are mounting holes on these modules, up here and down here. At about the height of these mounting holes, we can also attach our rails. I'll just demonstrate it here with the folding ruler. And so roughly here, with a bit of play, of course, we can mount our rails. Very important, please don't mount the rails so that, for example, a rail, or let me just show you with the rails. So that one rail isn't sitting here and the other one here, and the module sticks out way too far at the top and bottom. This causes vibrations on the module, and the module can get damaged or even tear out of its mounting. Of course, what's important is that we follow the points specified by the manufacturer. For this module, it would be something like this. Of course, we have some flexibility here, but now we know what distance we need to have between the module holders, and we can now measure that here and then implement it accordingly on the roof. Next, let's move on to attaching our rails to the roof. There are corresponding rail mounting systems for this. These are roof hooks, I'll just say. These are usually delivered to you in a disassembled state. The advantage of these roof hooks, we have a base bracket here that can be screwed onto the roof. We have a lot of holes here that we can screw through, and up front we have several square holes. These give us a big advantage, because usually you have to attach this substructure, this sheet metal, to your rafters. That means this is basically the beam where the roof rests, and here we usually have a roof batten installed, and this is where we screw this part on. Since it doesn't always work out perfectly with the tiles, we have various holes here. And this corresponding system, the counter system. Now here we have a screw. We just open it, put it through here like this, and can fasten it here. And depending on where you need it, you can play around a bit here and slide it to the left or right, so you can properly fasten this bracket to your roof batten. I recommend using at least 2 screws here. Usually screws are included in the package. Some people use their own screws, but why do that when the package already includes them? There are enough screws for each hook, in this case 3 pieces. Important with the screws should of course be able to withstand the load and should be rust proof. That means they should be coated in some way or maybe made of stainless steel. That's the case here. We have 3 screws which you can use here accordingly to fasten it properly. Next, there's another very important point for you. We can adjust everything here on these hooks. For one, we have this adjustment option down here. This is important for you because you can't change the size of the tiles you have. You have various tiles with different heights, and we need to adjust the hook accordingly. We can do that here with this elongated hole, and then up front we have another option to adjust the height of the hook. Why is that important? It's simple. Many roofs sag over time, and we need to compensate for that somehow. And we can do that very well with this. That way we make sure our rails are installed straight. Now that we have this basic knowledge, let's just head up onto the roof. Let's get started. We're on the roof now. I'll show you what's happening. Here you can see my thermal photovoltaic system. I've already made several videos about it explaining that I've now removed it. And here we now have to bring some photovoltaic modules here, which I want to use as a replacement for the thermal photovoltaic system. And that's via the heating rod. That means they heat directly into the heating rod on the direct current side, so I don't have to register the system, and I can also produce my hot water without any problems. So let's start with reinforcing the basic structure. I'll show you here. You see, I've already uncovered a row here and already started here as well. I've already attached the first module holder here. Let's put the battery aside for now. To explain it precisely, we have roof battens here and the roof is boarded. Underneath here is a rafter. It's about 14 to 15 centimeters wide and it runs from here to here. I added another board underneath so I can use the full rafter for mounting. I've put in 2 screws here for now and might add a third if I have enough left. Alternatively, you can simply attach it to the roof batten. You see, you can mount the hook in different ways. You have different slots here for the hook, which means you have flexibility when setting it up. You also saw me go over this seam with the hook. I'll show it to you a bit closer. Here you can see it a bit better. The seam is not damaged. I keep seeing that this seam gets chipped out and the hook is placed in there. That's not good, because if there's a storm, water comes here, gets pushed up and runs into your roof structure like this, so don't do that. I took an old tile here and installed it incorrectly. That would be wrong. Here we would have chipped out the seam. It shouldn't be like this, because down here you can't seal it, or you'd have to smear something in here. So this is the correct way to handle these tiles. It's better to chip out a bit from the tile above and then lay it on here. I usually add a small silicone jointer or something similar up front here so that no water can be pushed back here. You can do it, but you don't have to. But I've always had good results doing it this way. Now I'll put my brackets on here. And then I can mount my substructure here. I have a length of about 4 meters from the bottom here, so I can basically screw the substructure onto it. But we'll get to that later. Once we've properly attached the hooks, we move on to our aluminum profiles. We just need to install the aluminum profiles here. These aluminum profiles have 2 sides. Make sure you turn the correct side with the right groove facing down, which would be this elongated groove here. The hammerhead of the screw fits perfectly in there. Basically, the assembly is very simple. Now you insert the hammerhead screw through the hook here, and as you can see here, attach the aluminum rail to the mounting bracket. Important, when tightening the hammerhead screws, please make sure that the hammerhead screws are positioned correctly, meaning they need to turn slightly in the profile. You can also check hammerhead screw positions by viewing the backs of the screws. They have a kind of marking here. This always shows you the position of the head. It's important that the head is facing the right way when you tighten the screws, otherwise your profiles might not hold. Once we've attached the first profile, we can basically continue like this. That means we simply extend the profile now by attaching the second profile. For this, there are these connecting U-pieces. These also have 2 hammerhead screws. Simply attach them here as shown, tighten them, and build up along the entire row like this. Important, we still need to align the rails, so don't fully tighten these screws yet. Once we've prepared everything so far, the next step is alignment. For this, simply stretch a string over the aluminum profiles and align them accordingly. That means we can simply use the hooks here to adjust our aluminum profiles so that they lie perfectly straight on the roof, and with that, we've installed our profiles. After installing the substructure, we mount the photovoltaic modules. Unfortunately, I no longer have access to my scaffolding or a lift, but I still want to finish recording the video, so let's just take a look at it here on the table. That way, at least I can finish the video. What do we do next? So theoretically, you now see your substructure lying on the roof, and here we have our mounting materials included in the package. You see, here we have our end pieces, I'll just call them that, and these are our intermediate mounting units. I put these onto my substructure beforehand so I can keep working pretty quickly. We'll just start here with the end pieces. Make sure that these are oriented correctly down here. That would be correct. Now we just insert them here in the appropriate position where we roughly need them. If you can't insert them like this, you can either unscrew this screw a bit more, which will allow us to squeeze the rails together a bit more down here, or you can insert them here from the start. Let's try again. That doesn't work well, so just slide them in here from the start. However, you need to pay attention to the following here. Here, it's best to lay out all the elements the way you need them and insert them here from the start accordingly, beginning with the last element. In my case, that would be this end piece. Simply insert it here, put it in, and slide it roughly into the position where you need it. We also use intermediate connectors to link two modules, but we don't have them here now. I only have one here on the table, so I'll put an end connector here. We'll do the same on the underside. And now I could insert our module here. An important tip, the wiring of the modules. Sometimes it's a good idea to do the wiring here first. That means you can now run them along the profile here and secure them with suitable cable ties. Use cable ties that are also suitable for outdoor use, ultraviolet resistant cable ties. Attach your cables now, because once the modules are in place, you won't be able to manage them anymore. Now we simply take our module and install it here. Please make sure, depending on the module or type you're using, your connection cables are either attached at the top or in the middle. Please install the modules so that they are always applied evenly. As we can see, there's a negative and a positive terminal here. Make sure that these always point in the same direction and are not installed twisted, otherwise you'll have problems with your connections. Let's reverse this. Now the negative terminal is on the right and the positive is on the left, from my perspective. And make sure that you insert all the modules the same way. So we're going to insert the module here. Next, we slide the connectors into place. Maybe use a right angle here again and align the modules perfectly. Because the problem is this: if you start off crooked with the first module, it will get worse with every additional module. Especially if you're installing several modules, it might make sense to stretch a string along the top edge of the modules so you can keep everything aligned. Once we've done that, we can simply screw the modules together. You can use the appropriate tool for this. In this case, it would be a Torx wrench and then just tighten it firmly. Also important here, if you over tighten, it can break. Tighten the brackets so they sit properly. Hold them firmly and ensure the modules are secure. If you over tighten these stainless steel screws, let me just say, you might never be able to open them again later. After installing our modules, we ground the system. I always recommend this. It makes sense to ground a metal structure like this on the roof. Otherwise, currents could build up here, for example, during thunderstorms or similar situations, and that could lead to damage. How do you do that? It's actually very simple. We have these fastening units here, and we can run a cable through them. I recommend that you use an appropriate cross-section. I've installed 16 or 25 square millimeters on the roof. If you're not sure what you need here, just ask your electrician and we can put it in here. Make sure, at this point, where it connects with these connectors, the cable should be stripped. The bare copper must be visible here, then just tighten the screw. We can simply attach these holders anywhere on the substructure. It's not rocket science. The holder just has a nut down here. That means we can just slide this in here like this. I'll unscrew it a bit more, then it slides in more easily, and you can align it the way you need to in order to make a grounding connection here. Then just tighten it. And here, your cable, of course uninsulated at this point, just lay it through and tighten it. Last but not least, end caps are also included in the package. They look something like this. They have the following advantage. For one thing, everything looks a bit nicer when you put these end caps on here. Furthermore, there's another point. Sometimes I've seen constructions like this turn into real organ pipes. That means the wind simply got in here on the side and made some kind of noise. Of course, we can prevent that with this as well, and we can prevent pests from getting into the construction and possibly building nests there. So with that, we've finished the construction and we've already reached the end of the video. If you have any further questions about the system or the setup, please ask them in the comments below. That way, I might be able to make follow-up videos and answer them as well. If you're also interested in this system, these variants or these sets, take a look at the video description below. There, I'll link the sources for you so you can order the set you need accordingly. If you enjoyed or found my video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more of my videos? No problem, just subscribe to my channel here. It's free on YouTube. With that, I'll say goodbye. See you next time. Yours, Mark, on YouTube.